Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling, well, a really big one, the longevity revolution.
It's a huge topic.
It really is. We've gathered some fascinating material, everything from a documentary looking at pretty extreme health practices all the way to local efforts trying to boost community health.
And it all seems to point in one direction, doesn't it? That living longer and crucially living healthier is becoming, well, less sci-fi and more of a potential reality.
Exactly. It feels like a fundamental shift in how we think about aging.
Absolutely. Not just adding years, but changing our whole relationship with our bodies, with getting older. And the sources we looked at really show how many different ways people are coming at this.
For sure. And just to give you a sense of the scale here, back in 1950, global life expectancy was, what, around 45 and a half years?
Yeah, roughly that. Seems unbelievable now.
Right. And today it's nearly 73. That leap is just remarkable.
It really is, and it opens up so much potential, doesn't it? More time for, well, everything. Learning, working if you want, connecting with family and friends.
So our goal with this deep dive is basically to sift through these different viewpoints, pull out the key insights, maybe some surprising facts, and try to understand what this whole longevity thing could mean for you.
And the range is pretty wide.
Yeah.
We've got, for instance, Brian Johnson's approach, from the Don't Die documentary. Rokraz pointed out how incredibly tech-focused it is.
Very tech-driven, right? Optimizing sleep, wellness, using all sorts of gadgets, almost one extreme.
Definitely pushing the boundaries there.
Yeah.
But then you also have this message from Epic Life, which is, I think, really powerful.
The 80% one?
Yeah, that roughly 80% of our health outcomes boil down to our lifestyle, our everyday choices.
Which kind of puts the ball back in our court, doesn't it?
It really does. It emphasizes personal agency. And then, of course, there's the whole wave of health tech, AI, personalized medicine.
We saw a lot about that on LinkedIn. Folks like Dr. Lamia Kamal, Zuri Health,
Yeah.
they're all pointing towards much more tailored healthcare, proactive, not just reactive.
Exactly. And speaking of proactive, that El Camino Health Initiative is fascinating too.
Oh yeah, the pre-diabetes one, focusing on prevention in their community.
And that statistic is staggering. Nearly half the adults in their district affected. That's huge.
It really is. And they're bringing in people like Peter Attia, focusing on prevention as key for long-term health.
It's a great example of community-level action. And then, zooming way out, you have this concept of longevity escape velocity, LEV.
Right, LEV. That's the really futuristic idea, isn't it? That science might actually start to outrun aging itself.
Potentially, yeah. i.e. Insights had some really interesting stuff on that. The possibility of, well, radical life extension.
Okay, so we've got a lot to cover. From things you can literally do today to stuff that sounds like it's decades away. Where should we start? Maybe with what got us here.
Sounds good. I mean, it's easy to forget the basics, but i.e. Insights reminds us how much progress came from fundamental improvements.
Like better food?
Better nutrition, yeah. Basic public health, sanitation, better civil organizations supporting health.
Yeah.
And then the big medical breakthroughs.
Antibiotics, vaccines, game changers.
Absolute game changers. Plus, bringing down infant and maternal mortality rates. These weren't, fancy future tech. They were foundational shifts.
And they added decades to average lifespans over time.
Exactly. We kind of stand on the shoulders of those advances. Which brings us neatly to the present day and that epic life message again.
The 80% lifestyle factor.
Right. It really highlights the power of your daily habits. What you eat, how you sleep, managing stress, moving your body.
And even with Brian Johnson's super high-tech approach, as Kunkaz noted, the core focus is still on optimizing those basics, isn't it? Sleep, wellness.
Precisely. His methods might be extreme, maybe not for everyone, but the principle holds.
Yeah.
Prioritizing those fundamentals.
Which ties right into what El Camino Health is doing.
It does. Their focus on prediabetes is so smart because it's upstream. It's trying to prevent the chronic diseases that often follow.
And that 45% number, it just shows the scale of the challenge. It's not a niche issue.
Not at all.
Ah.
And I like their blended approach, using digital tools for reach and convenience, but also traditional methods.
Recognizing one size doesn't fit all, and that Food is Health program title says it all, really.
It does. It underscores that connection between nutrition and long-term well-being. It's about prevention, getting ahead of the curve.
So the big message here seems to be, we already have tools, lifestyle changes, preventative care. These can make a huge difference now.
Absolutely. You don't necessarily need to wait for the next big breakthrough to significantly impact your health trajectory. Actionable steps are available today.
Okay, so that's the foundation, the now. What about the near future, say the next 5 or 10 years? What tech advancements are realistically on the horizon?
Well, according to IE Insights, things could accelerate quite a bit. AI is a big one.
In what way? Like robot doctors?
Maybe not quite yet, but AI in diagnostics, helping doctors spot diseases like cancer earlier, more accurately, and in managing chronic conditions.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
Genetic engineering is another huge area. The potential to correct inherited diseases, maybe even target specific cancers based on their genetic makeup.
Wow, and tissue regeneration. That sounds like science fiction.
It's moving closer. The idea of potentially growing replacement tissues or even whole organs when needed. It's not here yet for widespread use, but the research is progressing fast.
That's incredible. And you mentioned daily diagnostics, like wearables.
Kind of like advanced wearables, yeah. Devices that constantly monitor your biomarkers, those unique signals your body gives off, and then using that data for truly customized medicine.
So treatment based exactly on what your body needs at that moment.
That's the goal. And interestingly, the tech to measure a lot of these biomarkers, it already exists. It's the interpretation, the personalization, the integration into daily life that's really evolving now.
And that's where all those health tech companies come in, the ones we saw mentioned.
Exactly. Companies like Shay.ai doing personalized wellness plans, Zuri Health using AI for accessibility, Quick Vitals analyzing stress from your phone. They're all building tools on top of these underlying tech advancements.
It feels like AI is becoming this powerful engine for spotting patterns, right? Things humans might miss.
That's a good way to put it. Spotting subtle signals earlier. And Dr. Lamia Kamal talked about personalized nutrition becoming a reality too.
Diet advice based on your specific biology.
Precisely. Moving beyond generic advice. And Terry Majicka pointed out this whole trend, referencing Fast Company, of people becoming more proactive, more engaged in their own health, partly because these tools empower them.
It really feels like a shift towards me-centric healthcare.
It does, though it also raises important questions, about access, equity. How do we make sure everyone benefits from these advances?
That's a crucial point. Definitely something to keep an eye on. Okay, let's shift gears again to the really far out stuff. Longevity escape velocity, LEV.
Right, LEV. It's a concept heavily associated with Aubrey de Grey.
And the basic idea is?
The basic idea is that eventually, science might advance so quickly in tackling aging that for every year you live, science gives you back more than a year of healthy life.
You'd essentially stop aging biologically, or even reverse it.
That's the implication. You reach a point where your expected remaining lifespan starts increasing over time rather than decreasing. You've escaped the velocity of aging.
Okay, my head hurts a little. When might this happen? The estimates seemed all over the place.
They really are. IE Insights mentioned some very optimistic projections, like maybe around 12 years away, which seems ambitious.
Very. And the more conservative ones.
More like 50 to 80 years or even further out. It's highly speculative, obviously. It depends on breakthroughs we can't fully predict.
And Sergey Young's goal of living to 200, how does that fit in?
He outlined sort of 3 horizons. First, prevent premature death, get more people to live healthier lives now. Second, push the current known limits, maybe towards 115, 125.
Which is already pretty old.
Extremely. And the third horizon is the radical one, actually reversing aging, potentially through things like cellular reprogramming.
Making old cells young again.
Essentially, yes, resetting them. And as IE Insights noted, there's already been some success with this in lab animals, like mice. So it's not pure fantasy, but translating it safely and effectively to humans is a whole other challenge.
Living to 200, feeling 25. It does sound appealing on one level, but also, as IE Insights brought up, kind of unsettling.
Deeply unsettling for some, I think. It challenges fundamental assumptions about the human life cycle, about mortality.
What are the big questions it raises?
Oh, huge ones. Ethical questions about resource allocation, overpopulation, spiritual questions about the meaning of life if death isn't an inevitability in the same way, philosophical questions about identity, relationships. Would society even function recognizably?
Yeah, how would things like retirement, inheritance, or even just having kids work?
Exactly. It forces us to confront things we often take for granted about the structure of our lives and societies. It's profound stuff.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, from basic health today to potentially immortal jellyfish.
Yeah.
Well, not quite, but you know.
Nearly.
As we wrap up this deep dive, what are the main things you think people should take away from all this?
I think there are maybe 3 key things. First, don't underestimate the power you have right now. That 80% lifestyle factor is real. Your daily choices matter hugely.
Okay, lifestyle first. What's second?
Second, technology is accelerating change in healthcare. AI, personalized medicine, these things are coming, and they hold real promise for more preventative, effective care in the relatively near future.
So watch this space, basically.
Possibly. And third, while the really radical stuff like LEV is still speculative, the research pushing towards it will likely spin off benefit for health and treating age-related diseases much sooner. The journey itself yields discoveries.
So even if living to 200 isn't around the corner, the quest might help us live healthier lives to 80, 90, or 100.
Precisely. And as IE Insights emphasized, focusing on your mental and physical health, now social connections, good food, sleep, exercise, those remain the most reliable investments you can make.
It always comes back to the fundamentals, doesn't it?
It often does. Which leads to maybe a final thought for you, listening.
Yeah.
Thinking about everything we've talked about, the lifestyle factors, the coming tech, the future possibilities, what's one thing, just one actionable step you could realistically take starting today to nudge yourself towards a longer, healthier future?
Just one change. And maybe thinking beyond yourself, too. If these trends do continue, what does that mean for society, for future generations?
Yeah, what are the ripples? There's definitely a lot to chew on.